There's sounds that should not exist 2 miles beneath the earth. Wet breathing through stone, heartbeat in the bedrock. I heard it. I woke it, and it remembers my name. My name is Marcus Webb. I was the chief engineer for the Sentinel Geothermal Project, a clean energy initiative buried in the Wind River Range of Wyoming. We were not drilling for oil. We were drilling for heat, superheated water trapped in porous rock formations, ancient reservoirs cooked by the Earth's mantle. The promise was simple: tap into that heat, generate steam, power a city with renewable energy. No carbon, no waste, just pure thermal power drawn from the planet's core. That was the sales pitch anyway. What we actually found was something that made me wish we had just burned coal and lived with the guilt. The facility was built into the side of a mountain, disguised as a research station to avoid protests from environmental groups who ironically would have saved us if they had succeeded in shutting us down. From the outside, it looked like a few steel buildings and a radio tower, but most of the operation was underground. 3 miles of descending tunnels, reinforced with concrete and rebar, leading to the drill chamber. A cathedral of machinery carved from living granite. The drill itself was a monster, a tungsten carbide beast 60 feet long, designed to chew through metamorphic rock like it was wet clay. We had been drilling for 8 months. The project was behind schedule and over budget. The investors were getting nervous. My team was exhausted. 18-hour shifts in artificial light, breathing recycled air that always tasted faintly of diesel and stone dust. But we were close. The seismic reading showed we were less than 100 meters from the target formation. 1 more week, maybe 2, and we would breach the reservoir. It happened on a Tuesday night, October 14th. I remember because it was my daughter's birthday and I had missed her video call because I was supervising the night crew. Irony is a bastard like that. The shift started normal, temperature reading steady, drill pressure optimal, rock resistance averaging 340 megapascals, standard metamorphic schist, hard but predictable. At 2:47 a.m., the resistance dropped. Not gradually. Not like transitioning between rock layers, it just vanished. The drill bit, which had been grinding forward at 4 inches per hour, suddenly lurched ahead 6 feet in 2 seconds. The entire drill assembly screamed, metal on metal, tortured and wrong. Alarms erupted across every panel in the control room. Void detected, shouted my assistant, a young geologist named Sarah Kim. She was staring at her monitor like it had just showed her something obscene. We have 0 resistance, complete loss of contact pressure. Pull it back, I ordered, hitting the emergency retraction. Shut down the mud pumps. Now, the drilling mud is what keeps the hole from collapsing. A slurry of water, clay, and chemical additives pumped down the drill pipe, circulating back up to carry away the pulverized rock. When the pump shut off, the returning mud should slow to a trickle and stop. It did not stop. It reversed. The flow meter went insane. Negative values. The mud was being sucked back down the hole, not flowing, being pulled, like something down there was drinking it. That is not possible, Sarah whispered. There is no geological mechanism for that. Check the seals, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Maybe we have a pressure differential. A vacuum effect. We checked everything. The seals were intact. There was no vacuum. The mud was just gone, pulled into whatever void we had punctured, and the drill, all 30 tons of tungsten and steel, was vibrating, not from the motor. The motor was off. It was vibrating from the hull. Something down there was making it shake. We spent 6 hours trying to retrieve the drill assembly. The winch could not pull it free. The tension gauge read like we were trying to lift a building. Finally, at 8:15 a.m., whatever was holding the drill let go. The cable went slack so fast the winch motor nearly tore itself apart. The drill string came rocketing up the shaft, 40 meters of pipe clanging and screeching against the tunnel walls. When the bit assembly emerged from the drill hole, We gathered around it like sailors around a harpooned whale. We expected damage, broken carbide teeth, warped steel. What we found was worse. The bit was coated in something, a film of translucent gel, thick as honey, the color of old amber. It moved, not like liquid, like muscle tissue, contracting and relaxing in slow rhythmic pulses. "What in the hell is that?" asked Vincent, our drilling operator. He was a 20-year veteran of the oil fields. I had never seen him look scared before that moment. "Take a sample," I told Sarah. "Full biohazard containment. I want spectroscopy." The works. She used a sterile scraper to collect the gel into a sealed container. The substance recoiled from the metal, pulling away like living skin flinching from a scalpel. When it was contained, it pressed itself against the walls of the container, spreading thin as if trying to escape. "It is behaving like a cell membrane," Sarah said quietly. "This should not be possible, not at that depth, not at that temperature." We carried the sample to the lab, a sterile room 2 levels above the drill chamber. While Sarah began her analysis, I went to check the seismic monitors. The readings were wrong. Before we drilled the void, the seismic profile showed solid rock extending another kilometer down. Now it showed something else, a cavity, massive, extending in all directions from our drill hole, 30 kilometers wide, 50 kilometers long. A hollow space in the earth that had not existed on any previous scan. "Marcus," Sarah called from the lab. Her voice had a tremor in it that made my stomach drop. "You need to see this." I found her standing in front of the electron microscope, her face pale in the monitor's glow. On the screen was an image magnified 2,000 times. Cells, not bacterial, not fungal. Eukaryotic cells with visible nuclei and organelles. Complex, organized, alive. "This is not contamination," she said. "This is not surface bacteria that fell into the hole. The carbon dating is showing these cells are over 2 billion years old. The DNA structure is nothing I have ever seen. Triple helix, 4 base pairs instead of 2. This is not evolution. This is something parallel to life as we know it." "What are you saying?" I asked, though I already knew. I just needed her to say it out loud so I could know I was not insane. "We drilled into something living," Sarah said. "Something old. Something that has been down there since before the continents formed." The lights flickered. Not the normal flicker of inconsistent power. A slow, rhythmic dimming and brightening. Pulse-like. I grabbed the radio. "Vincent, are we having electrical issues? Static?" Then his voice distorted. "No issues on my end, boss. But the drill hole is doing something weird." I ran down 3 flights of metal stairs through the access tunnel into the drill chamber. Vincent was standing at the edge of the shaft, staring down into the darkness. The hole was glowing. A faint bioluminescence, amber and gold, pulsing from deep below. "How deep did we go?" Vincent asked without looking at me. 3.2 kilometers, I said. "That light is coming from deeper than that," he said. "A lot deeper." The temperature in the chamber began to rise, not the dry heat of machinery, a wet, organic warmth. The humidity spiked to 80% in 5 minutes. Condensation formed on the metal surfaces. The air smelled wrong, sweet and rotten, like flowers decomposing in summer heat. Underneath that, something else, a mineral tang, copper and sulfur. The amber gel began seeping up through the drill hole, not bubbling, oozing. It spread across the drill floor like a living thing, creeping outward in branching patterns, veins, capillaries. It was growing a circulatory system right in front of us. "Get back," I shouted. "Everyone out of the chamber now." We retreated to the control room and sealed the blast door. Through the reinforced glass window, we watched the gel continue to spread. It covered the floor, climbed the walls, reached for the ceiling, and then it started to solidify. The gel hardened into fibrous strands, white and glistening, mycelium, fungal threads as thick as rope, weaving themselves into a network. It is colonizing, Sarah said from behind me. It is spreading into available space. How do we stop it? I asked. I do not know if we can, she said. The mycelium growth accelerated. Within 2 hours, the drill chamber was completely engulfed, a web of white fibers pulsing with that amber bioluminescence. And then the sound started, not mechanical, organic, a wet, rhythmic thumping, slow at first, then faster, a heartbeat. The entire chamber was beating like a living heart. I tried to call for help. The radio was dead. The satellite phone had no signal. We were only 30 miles from the nearest town, but the mountains blocked everything. We were alone. At 11:30 p.m., the mycelium breached the blast door, not by breaking it, by growing through it. The white threads found microscopic gaps in the seal and forced their way through, expanding and splitting the steel like roots cracking concrete. Vincent grabbed a fire axe from the emergency cabinet and started hacking at the invading growth. The fibers bled. An amber fluid, thick and warm, sprang across his protective suit. It is just a fungus, he shouted, swinging the axe. We can burn it. We can kill it. But we could not. We tried fire. The mycelium absorbed the flames, glowing brighter, converting the heat into growth energy. We tried chemical agents, industrial bleach, acid. The threads just rerouted around the poisoned areas and continued spreading. It was adapting faster than we could react. The first death happened at 1:15 a.m. One of the technicians, a man named David Park, was trying to seal a ventilation shaft that the mycelium was using to spread into the upper levels. The fibers wrapped around his ankle. He tried to pull away, but the mycelium was strong. It yanked him off his feet and dragged him toward the drill chamber. We heard him screaming over the radio, begging, then silence. When we found his body 6 hours later, it was covered in white threads. They had grown into his skin, into his mouth, into his eyes, colonizing him, using him as substrate. It is not just spreading, Sarah said, her voice hollow. It is harvesting. It is using organic matter to fuel its growth. We barricaded ourselves in the control room. 9 of us left. We had food for 3 days, water for 5. But the mycelium was patient. It did not need to rush. It grew across every surface, filling every space, consuming every organic molecule it could find. The bodies of rats that lived in the facility, mold on the walls, the wooden support beams, all of it absorbed and converted into more mycelium. On the second day, the growth started exhibiting coordinated behavior. The fibers would pulse in unison, waves of bioluminescence traveling through the network like signals to neurons. It was thinking, learning, becoming aware. We have to collapse the tunnels, Vincent said. Seal this thing underground forever. We cannot, I said. The explosives are in the drill chamber, behind 30 meters of living fungal mass. Then we go get them, he said, gripping his axe. We argued. We screamed at each other. But we knew he was right. If we did nothing, the mycelium would eventually fill the entire facility and find a way to the surface. Once it reached open air, soil, sunlight, it would spread unchecked. We had seen how fast it grew in a controlled environment. In the wild, it would be unstoppable. Vincent, Sarah, and I suited up. Hazmat gear, respirators. We cut our way through the mycelium with axes and machetes, hacking a path toward the drill chamber. The fibers fought back. They wrapped around our legs, trying to trip us. They grew over our faceplates, trying to blind us. And they bled. So much amber blood. The floor was slick with it. The air was thick with spores, glowing in the beams of our flashlights. We reached the storage locker and grabbed the explosives. C4 charges, 30 pounds, enough to bring down half the mountain if we placed them right. But as we turned to leave, The mycelium sealed the corridor behind us, a solid wall of white fibers 10 feet thick. We were trapped. Find another way out, I said, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. We searched. Every tunnel was blocked. Every vent was clogged. The organism had learned to cut off our escape routes. It was hurting us, corralling us like livestock. Sarah found a maintenance shaft that led to an air circulation tunnel. It was narrow, barely wide enough for a person to crawl through, but the mycelium had not fully colonized it yet. We crawled 20 meters of claustrophobic darkness, the sound of the organism's heartbeat pulsing through the walls around us. We emerged in the lower ventilation hub, 2 levels beneath the control room. The room was a forest of mycelial growth, stalks as thick as tree trunks rising from floor to ceiling, branching and interweaving. And in the center, something new had grown. A structure, organized, deliberate. A mass of fibers woven into a spherical shape, 10 feet in diameter, suspended by thick cords. Inside the sphere, visible through the translucent walls, something moved. "What is that?" Vincent whispered. As if in answer, the sphere split open. The fibers peeled back like petals, revealing the interior. It was a womb, and inside was David Park, or what was left of him. His body had been partially dissolved, integrated into the mycelial structure, but he was alive. His eyes were open, his chest was rising and falling. Tubes of amber fiber ran from the sphere into his mouth, his nose, his veins. Feeding him, keeping him alive, using him. His eyes focused on us. Recognition flickered in them. His mouth moved, trying to form words, but the tubes blocked his throat. Only a wet, gurgling sound emerged. Sarah screamed. Vincent raised his axe, ready to mercy kill the poor bastard. But before he could swing, the mycelium attacked. Fibers shot out from every direction, wrapping around Vincent's arms, his legs, his neck. He was lifted off the ground, suspended in the air. The axe clattered to the floor. "Run," he choked up. "Marcus, Sarah, run." We ran, abandoning him, leaving him to the same fate as David. We sprinted through the tunnels, the organism pursuing us, fibers reaching from walls and ceiling like grasping hands. Sarah was faster than me, younger. She pulled ahead, disappeared around a corner. I heard her scream, then silence. I reached the corner and stopped. The corridor ahead was completely blocked. A wall of mycelium, and embedded in the wall, half consumed, was Sarah. Her face was still visible, eyes wide, mouth open in a frozen scream. The fibers were already growing into her skin, burrowing into her flesh. I fell to my knees, sobbing, defeated. The explosives were still strapped to my chest, but what good were they now? I was alone, surrounded. The organism had won. Then I felt it. A vibration in the floor, different from the heartbeat, rhythmic, mechanical. The emergency ventilation fans, they were still running 2 levels above in the main air shaft. If I could reach them, if I could rid the C4 to detonate near the shaft, the explosion would rupture the air circulation system and trigger a catastrophic pressure failure. The blast would funnel up the main ventilation shaft and into the drill chamber, collapsing both and sealing the mycelium underground. But I would not survive it. The blast radius would kill anything within 300 meters. I made my decision. I crawled through the maintenance shafts, moving slowly, quietly, trying not to alert the organism to my intentions. The fibers brushed against me, exploring, but did not grab. Perhaps it thought I was already defeated. Perhaps it was toying with me. I did not care. I reached the ventilation shaft. The fans were massive, 10 feet in diameter, spinning at 300 RPM. I climbed onto the access catwalk and started placing the charges. The mycelium watched. I could feel its awareness, its attention focused on me. It knew what I was doing, and it did not stop me. That was when I understood. The organism was not afraid. It had already won. Even if I sealed it here, it existed elsewhere. The cavity we detected was not an isolated pocket. It was part of a network, a global network. Threads of ancient life running through the Earth's crust like nerves through a body. We had not discovered a new organism. We had poked the planet's immune system. I set the timer for 60 seconds, enough time to make peace, not enough time for regrets. I sat on the catwalk, looking down into the drill chamber, watching the bioluminescent mycelium pulse and breathe, beautiful in the terrible way, alive in a manner we never imagined, old beyond comprehension. The mycelium began to recede, pulling back from the walls, withdrawing into the drill hole. It was not fleeing the explosion. It was letting me go, allowing me to seal the breach, as if it understood that I had learned my lesson, that I would carry the knowledge, that I would warn others. I disarmed the charges with 15 seconds left on the timer. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly could not stop it. The countdown froze at 007. I sat there for a long time crying, laughing, unsure which emotion was appropriate. The mycelium completed its retreat. The drill chamber was empty again, just concrete and steel and the faint smell of copper. The bodies of my colleagues were gone, absorbed completely. The organism had cleaned up after itself, removing all evidence of its presence except the hole, the wound we had inflicted. I climbed out of the facility alone. Dawn was breaking over the mountains. The air was cool and clean. I walked to the nearest road and flagged down a truck. The driver took one look at me, covered in amber stains and white fungal fibers, and asked if I needed a hospital. I told him I needed a phone. The company sent a team, inspectors, engineers, safety consultants. They found nothing unusual. The drill hole was empty. The samples Sarah had collected were gone. Containers shattered, contents evaporated or consumed. The bodies were never found. The official report listed it as a catastrophic equipment failure, followed by a natural gas leak. 7 fatalities. Cause of death, asphyxiation and blunt force trauma. The facility was condemned. The tunnels were filled with concrete. The project was terminated. I was given a severance package and a non-disclosure agreement. I signed it. What was I going to say? That we drilled into a living planet? That the Earth has an immune system? That we are parasites tolerated only as long as we stay on the surface? I moved to Oregon, a small coastal town where the ground is soft sand and thin topsoil, nothing like the ancient bedrock of Wyoming. I do not go into basements. I do not dig gardens. I keep my feet on pavement and concrete on surfaces I know are dead. But sometimes, late at night, I feel vibrations in the floor, a rhythmic pulse, a heartbeat, and I know it is still down there, waiting, healing, remembering. The mycelium network spans the globe, 1 billion years old, patient and aware. We are the infection. We drill and mine and fracture the earth, injecting our poisons, extracting its blood, and eventually the planet will respond. I have seen the white cells. I have felt the planet's awareness, and I know that when the Earth decides we are a threat, when it decides to cure itself of humanity, there will be no fighting back, because you cannot kill the ground beneath your feet. You cannot destroy the foundation of your existence. I wake up every morning terrified that today will be the day the Earth gets tired of us. The day the mycelium rises to the surface in 1 billion places at once. The day the soil itself becomes predatory, because I have touched it. I have felt its intelligence, and it has felt mine, and it knows where I live.